Good evening, everyone. We are about to start a very exciting keynote session by Professor Edwina Fitzmaurice, who is in charge of the product management and customer success services at Ernst and Young. She has been working on the impact of artificial intelligence in our everyday challenges and everyday experiences from a corporate perspective and also from an academic perspective. So she is the right person to address this audience where we are talking about the various challenges of artificial intelligence, about security, about sustainability, and the many things that we grapple with on a daily basis as in a professional as well as in a personal environment. So we met Professor Edwina last year at the G20 conference organized by the MHRD. And in Delhi, we were co-panelists, the Center for Memory Studies and Edwina Fitzmaurice, where we were co-panelists at the International Conference on Crime and Security in the Age of NFTs, AI, and Metaverse. So we have been interacting with Edwina's team over the last 1 year, and we've received a lot of insightful understanding of how to navigate this space and how to navigate this new cognitive space, this new epistemological space, which is challenging the ways in which we do research, we do every day, and the ways in which we remember, we configure our brains, we configure how to go about the various kinds of ecosystems that we are part of. So today we'll listen to Edwina talk about the human augmentation of artificial intelligence. Edwina, over to you, and we really look forward to a very enriching session, and hopefully this will also give us a lot of takeaways to continue our research, and all of our participants are excitedly looking forward to this. Yeah, over to you, Edwina.
Great. Well, good to see you both again. Thank you, Maren, for that introduction, and it's lovely to be with you all today. So as Maren said, I'm looking after customer success and the product teams, but also the innovation teams at EY globally in terms of the technology that we are developing. So we've been looking at AI for quite some time. I mean, over 10 years, really. But it's only in the last number of years that the whole generative AI scene has really exploded. So that's taken us to a new level of change and disruption, and that's what we've really been working on in particular. So what I'd like to tell you a little bit about is what we're seeing in the market and what's happening with, our clients around the world. EY is a $50 billion organization in 140 countries. We have 250,000 clients. Everybody's asking about generative AI, and we're actually one of the biggest users of AI in the world ourselves. So I'll talk to you about what we're seeing with our clients, but also what we call our client zero story, which is what we're doing with AI for ourselves. So I have a few slides to share with you. I don't know if they're on screen at the moment. I can't see them. Are they being projected at the moment?
Yes.
There we go. Okay. So maybe we could put that into, slide share mode so we can, yeah, there we go. All right. So I'd like to talk to you about how we think about AI, and in particular with the human lens. We're very much around sort of humans at the center as we think about technology and AI, and particularly in professional services, disrupting our own business. Professional services is a very people-intensive business, obviously, very knowledge-intensive. So it's both a great challenge to our business, but also a great opportunity. So I'll tell you a little bit about that. So if you could jump to the next slide, please. This is just a chart that shows, some estimates around, or the expectations around, the disruption to the workforce and the disruption to jobs. So we're at quite a sort of still an early stage here. We're mapping sort of GPT engines as they move through their progression. GPT-4 is obviously out. There was some recent releases from OpenAI just last week with additional models that bring additional reasoning to the GPT engines, as just one example. And all of this is on a journey around technology and generative AI becoming more capable, more human-like, more able to do reasoning, more able to think the way humans think. And there are really significant breakthroughs going on there. Obviously, as you project out into the future, people talk about AGI, that fully autonomous, fully thinking, fully capable AI that's able to think just exactly like a human and beyond. That's still quite a ways off, and some people think that will never happen, but it could. But we're certainly on a disruptive path, and the sort of changes that we can see through the workforce are going to be substantial. A lot of jobs will be impacted, but we also can already see there's a lot of new jobs being created, and changes to how work is being done. So we're not seeing at the moment this sort of huge workforce disruption that everybody predicts. That's certainly not happening yet. But we are also seeing new jobs being generated. So feeling quite optimistic about the change that's going on. We're very interested in it for our own business. Our clients are very interested in, but it's still early days. So let's move to the next slide, and I'll talk a little bit about the sectors that are going to be disrupted. So, anything that's sort of knowledge-based. So you can see, where we would expect to see a high impact on processes and on jobs would be, for example, in banking and financial services, or in pharmaceuticals, places where, there's a lot of data and processing going on. There's a lot of analysis going on. There's a lot of knowledge work going on. So we can expect a lot of disruption in areas like that. Equally, areas like retail, media and entertainment, which is very content rich. So, which is very experience rich, where you can create new experiences with customers or consumers, where you can generate new content, whether that's music or video. You can create your own little movies now, and certainly it's quite easy to create songs these days with generative AI. I'm not saying they're any good. I'm not saying they're songs that you'd want to listen to on your playlist, but you can certainly do that. So quite a lot of change there, and particularly around the area of experience. And then if you also take a look at it from another angle, impacts on processes, where very process-centric roles, particularly software, is prime for disruption, because actually software is engineering and it's very rules-based. So rules-based work is prime for disruption. In our own business, for certain types of code, we have about 6,500 people just in the area, just in the group that I am working with on products and engineering. We see about 80% improvement in certain types of code that can be auto-generated by Gen AI. That's not the case for every type of coding, but they're substantial productivity gains that can be already achieved today with generative AI in an area such as coding. But also, you can see on this chart things like legal services, very, very text-based, very document-heavy. Insurance, claims processing, very, text and document-heavy, regulatory-based, where you can actually check documents against rules. A lot of disruption in those areas, and we're seeing that already. On the other end of the scale, at the bottom end, where we don't expect to see and are not seeing a lot of disruption, will be where there's a lot of physical effort involved. So maintenance and repairs, which require people to go out and repair machinery. Robotics is not at a stage which can replace human maintenance and repair, or where there's a lot of heavy duty infrastructure, the oil and gas industries and so on. Things that are heavy industries are very physically demanding, don't see the same level of disruption as sectors that are very knowledge based or process centric. Okay, so seeing a lot of change, a lot of work going on in these different areas as people try to work out where to make the change and what kind of change to make. So we jump to the next slide, please. So as we look at our professional services, I think it's the reason there's a lot of interest in this is because professional services, like in EY or others, we cover many industries. It is a very knowledge and analysis-based business. So you would expect to see disruption, and indeed we do. So we think about this on these quadrants of, a lot of work is done which is fully human-based, it's relationships-based, it's trust-based, it's high-end advice-based, advisory-based, and all the way through to, a combination of humans and machines, to mostly human, mostly machine, and sometimes certain processes, certain activities can be done entirely by machines. They're fully autonomous, and they're, the technology itself is doing the processing, and that's today's work. But with generative AI, the mix across that can change. And so that's what we're really looking at. So one of the things that I think I would like to mention is what we're seeing today in disruption is the sort of GPT engines, very chat-based. It's kind of like a sophisticated search in many ways. You know, you ask a question, it searches the LLMs and it brings you back a series of answers, mostly right, but not always right, doesn't always get it right, as we know. But it can certainly, you know, really aid research work and analysis work. But it's quite simple still. So one of the things that we're working a lot on now is what's called intelligent agents. And agents are a very kind of different proposition because with a chat interface on a GPT engine, you know, you're just asking a question and getting a relatively simple answer. With agents, you can similarly have that chat interface, that conversational LLM interface, but you can put code behind it. So you can actually get the agent to do an action based on a data set that you give it. So you can be quite specific about the data. You can be specific about the action to take and get it to do work. And you still have this conversational LLM power and interface. So intelligent agents, we believe, are the future of work. And it can actually, you can start coding and creating agents that do specific tasks. And these agents can also talk to each other. So one agent can call another agent to complete a workflow of tasks. And so you see a chain of agents talking to each other, calling each other. And, you know, we have humans, what we call humans in the loop as we do that. So we have, you know, the agents doing certain work, the humans doing certain work, it all coming together and then being brought back together to kind of complete the overall task. That's really powerful. And the kind of things that you can do there are really extensive. So that's where we see a lot of disruption. And we've been building out these intelligent agents across areas like finance and talent, customer service and so on, to complete complex workflows. So you'll see those sort of changes going on in sales and support, in back office transformation, in the talent area. But you know, that has implications. These also have implications to workforces and how they're put together, to this kind of skills that you need for people who are working with technology like this, people who are effectively working with, you know, twins, buddies, co-pilots as part of their day-to-day work, knowing how to interface and talk to and operate and quality check, work with these LLMs, with these agents, and how work is being disrupted around that. So additional to, you know, just changing, disrupting, transforming businesses, you can also expect that there will be new businesses that will emerge that will come from this technology. They will be native to this technology, and they won't be coming from a base of transformation. They will just automatically start in this way. And we're already starting to see that too, where certain types of companies are setting up natively with generative AI. They start in that position, and they're taking on areas like, you know, sales or administration or finance or whatever it might be. So quite a lot of disruption going on there to our business, but also to our clients' businesses. So let's jump to the next slide, please. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about how we're thinking about it in EY. We've set up a program that we've been running for the last 18 months, which is across these three pillars. And when we advise our clients, they often like to understand how we're organized, and they sort of often copy it because it's a model, it's a way of working that they can think about for themselves. So it's something that some of you might be interested in as well. We think about transforming our clients, or a kind of a whole pillar around what's happening to our customers, what offerings, what solutions, what services, what experiences, what transformations they're going through, and how we can help them with that, and what kind of experience we want to give them around that, both in terms of how we deliver our services, but how we also help them transform their products and services. So there's a whole range of work for us going on with our customers and our clients. The second pillar is how we're transforming ourselves. I talked there a little bit about the future of work, which we see fundamentally being disrupted. And then we think about the future of functions, the future of finance, the future of HR, the future of research, the future of knowledge, the future of sales, the future and so on. And then the future of technology itself. So how do you organize yourself with all of this technology that's available in the market? What do you have to do internally, both in terms of the infrastructure you need to put in place across, cloud technologies, the sort of data readiness that you need to go through, data security that you have to put in place, and the whole kind of use of these technologies to both upskill your technology people and your workforce, but have the kind of skills that know how to take advantage of these and stay ahead of them. So that's a lot of the internal transformation of an organization. And then the third part that we look at is transforming the world. And I think all of us worry about ethics and privacy and security and regulation, and making sure that all of this technology and all of this opportunity leaves us with the world that we all want to live in. So we do a lot around that, work with regulators around the world, with standards bodies, and so on, because we think that's really important. So we have a whole work stream looking at the public policy agenda as well. Now, in addition, we've taken a very strong position around humans at the center, and we've created a new media campaign around that, which I think might run. We have a video to show you, and forgive me for a moment, it is an ad for EY. But I want you to listen to the language if this video plays, about how we talk about humanity, how we talk about trust, how we talk about responsibility, and just that we really want to, our position is that we really want to influence as much as we can in the world, to put a human-centered approach to all of this work, because we think it can be just the most enormous opportunity for everybody, and can actually uplift the standard of living for people, can bring people in from the outside who are not able to access education or health in a completely different way. So we're very sort of positive around the idea of human-centered AI. So if we jump to the next slide, please. Forgive me, as I said, it's an ad for EY, but if it plays, please listen. I hope you can hear it running in the center as well. Okay, so hopefully I don't know if you had the sound there, I couldn't hear it, but I hope that what you saw there, that was actually all of our own EY people, and we had our own AI generate all of those images. So that idea of humans and AI connecting together, we've created an EY.ai platform with all of that technology, all of that sort of risk, trust, confidence, bias, ethics. So both the technology and the risk side coming together with a very human-centered approach to transform work, to transform the world. So this is how we talk to our clients, and we would encourage people to really keep humans at the center as we think about this, because there's a lot of hype and there's a lot of concern out there, but it's still early days, and we still have the ability to control what happens if we all get very actively engaged. Now, I'm not saying we can control this forever. Certainly nobody can, but there's we would like to be as active as possible, and I hope all of you are too. I'm sure you are, and thinking about how can we use generative AI for positive good. So if we move to the next slide, please. So let's talk a little bit about some of the numbers, and is it hype or is it reality? I think it's both. It's both hype and reality. In the early days, there were security concerns. Certain countries like Italy banned all of this early days on, but that, of course, those bans came off. There's been a lot of concerns about IP. There's concerns about bias. There's estimates there from Goldman Sachs of 300 million jobs being affected on the challenges side. But on the benefit side, Microsoft have claimed 55% reduction in programming time across the board. As I said, we're seeing some good results there ourselves. 57% of people will believe that their creativity will be enhanced according to Adobe and others. So you see a lot of extremes on both sides. It's a lot of concern, but also a lot of hype. I would say, what we're seeing with our clients at the moment is, and with ourselves, is that there is a lot of benefit and a lot of productivity benefit, but there is also a lot of hype around that. And so the reality of, where do you find the biggest opportunities? Where's the first place to start? There's a lot of proof of concepts that have been going on, and people are starting to ask questions to say, we're spending a lot of money and a lot of effort on this. Where should we really concentrate? Where should we focus our attention? So let's jump to the next slide and talk a little bit more about how we've been thinking about focusing our attention. So one of our biggest personas, our biggest, most powerful roles in an EY context is one of our, what we call our global client service partners. So these are partners that run some of our biggest accounts. So these are high impact jobs. So we've looked at all of the roles in EY and which of the ones have the biggest impact to our business in terms of our clients, our relationships, our revenues, and so on. So this is a particular role. So we've been studying this group, time and motion studies as we do with this and with lots of our other roles. But as an example, here's a persona of Paula, one of our client service partners, and how she spends her day, everything from getting up at 7 a.m., scanning her emails, looking for news, going through her morning, looking at to-do lists and what she has to do to manage her workload, going to meetings, writing up the follow-ups from those meetings with clients, with her team, having to do quite a lot of detailed research across, the different domains of work that we do, or the different sectors that we're working on as she's working on proposals for her clients. Then, working with the EY teams to match the skills of our people and the technology that we have to help our clients solve problems. And she might finish up at the end of the day at 8 o'clock at night, sort of trying to wrap up the day, missing time with her family. Fortunately, these things happen. We all work very long hours, as I'm sure you all do too. So if we jump to the next slide, we say, how do we think about applying generative AI to her work? So, quite quickly you come up with examples of, we call these AIs, we give them names, the matchmaker, something that an AI that can match EY people to the roles, or the ghostwriter, an AI that can actually do the writing for her, write proposals for her, and can create personalized content, knowing her clients, knowing the team, knowing what she's working on, using EY templates that can generate documents for her that would normally take her hours to do. Or ways to summarize meetings and give her action lists and take some of those actions for her, and ways to review her messages and so on. And so we've been prioritizing this and putting it into, if you jump to the next slide, putting it into a matrix of how we think about the priorities that we would go at these different tasks. So if you could jump to the next slide, please. We come up with a different matrix on how we look at that. Either it's high impact, high return, so we'll do that first, or something that could be a lower return in the future. If we could jump to the next slide. I don't know if the slides are moving for you. They're stuck for me. There we go. Yeah, so we prioritize by human impact into these quadrants, and we're doing this across all of our job families, all of our work, to say what are the highest impact AI actions that we can take, or AIs that we can build, and the things that we should do now, highly feasible and highly desirable, up the top right, all the way down to things that are they're going to be harder to do, and they're not going to give us the same kind of impact. So we're doing that across our workforce, and we're also generating effectively digital twins, AI buddies, AI co-pilots, AI helpers, supporters, coaches, whatever you want to call them, which sit beside you. So I know my role, I know what I do every day, and now I have an AI assistant, which is helping me with my job. And we've studied what those jobs are like, and we're just rolling out a sort of AI assistant tools inside of these personas to our people, so that their day-to-day work changes. They don't need to get up in the morning and scan for news, because there's a news AI there to do it for them. So immediately that work is done. So we're seeing big productivity gains as we roll out these sort of high impact AIs to our workforce. And we have a big program of working on across all of that. It's pretty exciting, and our people are really liking it, which is good. So that's a big part of this. Are people scared? Are they worried? No, we're not seeing that at all at the moment. People are actually very excited to take this on. We're getting rid of a lot of work that is just very time consuming for them. And it really does, it is the promise of it frees you up to do the more interesting, more challenging, more thoughtful work. And certainly in our business, we're seeing that. And generally, we see people are adopting AI very quickly because of the productivity gains, and the experience is just so much better. So we've seen very good results on that. I'll talk a little bit more on that in a minute. If we could jump to the next slide, please. One of the other things that we're doing is sort of thinking, how do we personalize this in a different way? So we're combining some technologies. We've been scanning our offices around the world and kind of creating them in 3D. I think that's a little video. I don't know if that'll work. You could press a button and see what happens there if it works. And we also have been creating an avatar. So we've been putting a talking avatar. If you could just go back there, a talking avatar on top of these LLMs, these digital twins, these buddies. We're creating faces and putting them into a 3D world. So you can go into our offices and meet your AI, your talking buddy, and have a conversation shown by an avatar. So here we have an avatar who is loaded up with all of our consumer products data. We call her Wan Yi. She can talk about what's happening in the fashion industry around the world. She can give you predictions about what the next trends are going to be, what companies are investing in, what's happening with Gen Z, Gen Alpha, the kind of fashion trends that they're interested in. And you can have a conversation with her talking as an avatar. So I don't know if that video is going to play, it doesn't matter. We can jump to the next slide, but it's quite interesting to see. Can you hear the sound there? Okay. You can stop that now. I don't know if you're hearing the sound, but what's going on there anyway, so that she can have a conversation with her. So again, our people are really excited and interested in this. We've been trialing this with our interns. We hire about 3,000 interns in the US every year, and we've been trialing a lot of these newer technologies, in the metaverse, with talking avatars, competitions, games, so very kind of human-centered spatial experiences as well. And we got really excellent feedback about that. They loved it as well. And interns from college are a tough crowd, and they can be very vocal, very demanding. They all play games. So creating an interface that actually is acceptable to that group is quite a challenge. So we're really pleased about that, and I think it gives us a bit of a framework of how that kind of human interaction with these technologies can work in the future. So as we move away from text and move more, text and typing, and move more to voice and spatial experiences. So jump to the next slide, please. Thank you. So we measure things on what we call the HPQ index, human experience, productivity, and quality. We also look at risk. As we look at all of these changes that we're putting through, or as we think about measuring the impact of AI. And so on the human side, we look at the ease of use and the sentiment. Do people like it? Is it easy to use when we're looking at different technologies and different AIs? On the productivity side, we're looking at the ability to complete the job and the amount of time saved. And on the quality side, we're looking at the quality of the output and the confidence and the reliability of the output. And if it scores well on all three, we think it's a good AI. If it doesn't score well on all three, we don't consider it a good result. So there's not a lot of point in having something that appears to save a lot of time, highly productive, but the quality is really poor. So if you can't rely on it, it's not really worth it, right? Equally, if you're trying to get this human interaction, human and AI, this sort of human-centered way of working, and people don't like it, and you have to understand, people aren't disliking things because they're productive. They're disliking things because the experience is bad, the quality is bad, it's not giving good results, it's creating more work than it's saving. And so we look very carefully at the human reaction to things as well. So when we get a score across all three, we, as I say, we adopt it, we think it's a good AI, or if we don't get a good score across them, we reject it. So we definitely take the human side of this into account. We also, I should say, you can see risk on this. We do look at the risks around things. We're very thoughtful and careful about the kind of AI that you want to use. You know, you have to be very careful about the quality of the results, but particularly in anything that's regulated. You know, there's a whole series of checks that need to go in place before you start relying on AI for things like that. And also there's costs involved too. And that's important. You know, the licensing costs for these AIs can be really high if you're buying in tools from the outside. And the run costs can be high. So we're looking at all of that as well before we all lose our minds putting AI into everything that we do. There's some real commercial considerations and risk considerations as well. So I'm going to wrap up by just talking a little bit more about that. So if you jump to the next slide, please. So on the risk side, I'm sure you've been talking about, you're all talking about this yourselves, but confidence and accuracy is obviously huge. These LLMs, these GPTs, they hallucinate. You'll have heard of that. And what that means is it just doesn't have enough data to give a good answer. So it makes up answers based on the best guesses it can make. So there's a lot of work to be done still around confidence and accuracy and making sure you're only relying on it for work that isn't, you know, certainly mission critical, medically critical, things like that. You know, in regulated industries, you have to be incredibly careful about this. So a lot of work around validation and the appropriate use of technology. Obviously, privacy, surveillance, and security as well. There's a massive amount of work going on around data and what data is being made available inside of these LLMs. If you're loading up your own data and giving, you know, an LLM access to your own internal data, you know, what's the implications of that? Are there any leakages? Is the data secure? Are the models learning from your own data? And what is actually happening around that? So there's a lot of concerns about privacy, security of data, and just a huge amount of work going on making data ready for these LLMs at the moment. So that's a huge piece of work we're seeing with clients at the moment. Obviously, on the legal and regulatory side, there's a lot of concerns about copyright and IP infringement as these, you know, GPT engines are generating new content. They're generating it from something else. So, you know, where did the original content come from? Is there IP infringement going on? And are there data protection concerns around all of that too? So that's a big concern. And of course, fairness and bias. These models are trained from the internet. So it has the best of the internet and the worst of the internet there. You can get a lot of toxic content as well as, you know, great content. You know, while you're asking an LLM how to solve a major problem, how to help with a concern around the world, or, you know, how to help diagnose a disease, perhaps. It's also able to, you know, come up with compounds that can kill people. So this is the same technology that can both cure and kill. So there's a lot of concerns about bias, about fairness, about ethics, about it can be really nasty. You can get it to say very nasty things too. So all of those concerns exist. So, you know, we're not out of the woods at all about how to use these technologies. So if you jump to the next slide, I'll start to finish up just to talk about how we're working through that and what we're seeing with our clients. So governance, particularly IT governance, and getting the technology organized and secure, and getting the data secure is very important, and data quality. The costs that I mentioned are very important. Success rates, you know, how much you're paying for the licensing costs and the run costs, and getting your technology stack in place is critical. And then the last thing, you know, I'll just finish on this last slide, which is to say, you know, the conversations that are going on. If you jump to the last slide, please. A lot of it's about technology. You'll hear us talking about AI and automation and agents and neural nets and machine learning, and everybody's learning what these things mean and what AI is all about. But at the end of the day, I think it comes back to the kind of questions that we see here on the right, questions for leaders of businesses, for leaders in government, for leaders in academia and others, which is, what does this mean and how are we going to use it? Yes, the technology exists. Yes, it's really powerful, but what do we want to do with it? So, for organizations, we say, well, what are your goals and your objectives? What are you trying to do? Can this technology help you grow your business? Can it help you, work in new ways with your customers? For CMOs, can it help you, build a new type of relationship? Can it, chief risk officers, can it actually help you manage your risks? Do you know the risks involved, but can you also help you manage your risk? Are there ways that you can use this technology to reduce risk in your business? Have you got the right controls in place? And for technology people, have you got the right tech stack in place? Have you got the right talent in place to take advantage of this? And obviously the finance people everywhere are asking questions about, can this help us reduce cost? Can it help us with productivity? And HR and talent people everywhere are saying, well, what does it mean for our workforce? What does it mean for our people? And what we have certainly found is including people on the journey has been critically important. Our people are involved in every step of the way. We've created a huge champions network. We have like 300,000 people pretty much every day using generative AI now out of our 400,000 workforce. Everybody has it. Everybody has access to it. And everybody wants it. I mean, we're not getting any reaction so far that says people want to give it back. Absolutely not. They're really working with us to change how work is done, to give them more creative time, which we're definitely seeing way more creativity coming through. Roles that were considered more junior, that could only do a certain level of work, are upskilling quickly and able to perform at much higher levels, probably a grade above, when they start using some of the AI tools that we've been giving them. So they're freed up to do higher order work quicker. And people like that. I mean, people are looking for challenge. They're looking for upskilling. They're looking for ways to be creative. And they see these tools as very powerful in that. So we haven't been seeing a negative reaction, a concern. Not seeing that so far. People are really sort of looking forward to it and looking for more technology all the time. So I hope I've given you a sense of what's going on at EY, what's going on with our clients, where we are in this journey, which is early days. Lots of opportunity, lots of excitement, lots of hype. The reality is also setting in that there's costs involved, there's risks involved. You really need to focus your attention. And we can see big workforce changes. So working with people, bringing people into the center of this and maintaining a humans at the center approach, and keeping that conversation live and always talking about the impact on people and how to keep it as a positive experience for people. We have seen that to be a really key enabler, both in the excitement and in the adoption of these technologies. So I hope that was useful for you. Thank you for the opportunity of sharing the story with you today, and I'll hand you back to Maren.
Thank you so very much, Edwina. This was just truly wonderful. And this was like a masterclass on AI. And you covered everything so very perfectly and in a very balanced and compact manner. And this was highly informative, particularly also because you've drawn from your own professional experience, which is a unique perspective that we would not have had access to otherwise. I must also add that we are particularly grateful to Edwina for joining at this hour. This is just 4:30 a.m. from where she's joining, and she's been very, very accommodative about about this time slot, and we're very, very grateful to this. What is uniquely interesting and inspiring about your approach, and I'm sure all of us, the audience, can resonate with this too. The way in which you look at AI as an innovative disruption, it's not seen as a threat, but you're not looking at it as some magic or witchcraft either. Yeah? It's a very pragmatic approach which will help us to take informed decisions. And it's also about keeping the human as at the center subject. There's absolutely no question about it. So we don't even have to discuss at length about the ethics and the issues related to the approaches in terms of where to locate the human, because it's always already clear in terms of an institutional approach, as well as in terms of we get to know where you stand personally in this as well. The human-centric approach, it's very reassuring in multiple ways. And this, I'm also reminded that this was a distinctive focus of our panel at the G20 conference last year, which was on security and metaverse. We, all the panelists, we're very keen to talk about where the human is situated and what is happening to the human, because that focus will help us ask the right questions and also look for the right kind of solutions in the near future. And what is also very interesting for us to note at this point is that in the over 650 abstracts that we received for this conference, whenever digitality or the digital interface was mentioned, there was this anxious excitement about what AI does or what it could potentially do. And that sense of anxiety mixed with an excitement, I think it was very palpable in some of the sessions which happened today as well. So what your session, Edwina, has given us is a roadmap to look at these questions with more clarity and awareness, because that's very, very important too, because we do now get a sense of what are the different ways in which this is being worked, and we get the story from the back end, which I think is very, very important, especially from our disciplines, from humanities disciplines, when we are trying to ask the right questions and to figure out what are the research approaches to take ahead. So thank you for training us to ask the right questions, to begin to ask the right questions, and also to approach this in a very human-centric form, and also to get a sense of how the system works, how the different institutions, the different mechanisms, the different kinds of agencies which are part of the AI, the invisible AI conglomerate, how it's operating from there. And we are also happy to share that this is very much in alignment with one of our newest project with Mozilla Foundation, where we're trying to look at responsible AI and practices of fairness and transparency. We really look forward to continuing this conversation with you and your firm in the not too distant future as well. And of course, we really hope that there will be more collaborative projects at institutional level in the not so distant future for us to take off to. So on behalf of the Center for Memory Studies and I&MS 2024, we thank you, and we really look forward to strengthening the sustainable collaborations ahead. Thank you very much for joining it this hour, and also for the kind interaction that we've had with you over the last 1 year. And we look forward to taking this towards more visible and more sustainable projects ahead. We also hope to host you here at IIT Madras at the earliest. So we are extending a very warm welcome to you to be part of perhaps our next I&MS conference in 2025, or in the many events that we might be able to host together in future. Thank you very much, and have a good day ahead.
Thank you, Maren. Okay, bye-bye.
So with this, we bring this plenary session to a close, and I request the participants to follow the instructions to continue with the rest of the sessions. Thank you all very much.